Patriotic Alliance says it'll open coalition talks with all parties, especially those willing to give the party the Home Affairs portfolio. The PA achieving a presence in 7 municipalities, with its best showing being the 8% that it recorded in the Western Cape. The party campaigned primarily on an anti-illegal foreigner ticket, with that theme of Abahambe, they must go, certainly dominating much of the discourse. Let's continue our discussion here in studio. Patriotic Alliance Deputy Leader is Kunene, who is with us, as I mentioned, in studio, and joins us now. Great to have you on the program, sir. Thanks very much indeed for popping by. It's been a grueling election. Have you managed to get any sleep?
Thanks for having us. There wasn't much of the sleep. To be honest, we were on the road every day. And remember that one is still the MMC of Roads and Transport. So you had to balance campaigning and service delivery work in the city of Johannesburg. But it has been a great experience. But it has exposed one to the reality of what our people are going through. You know, in the Eastern Cape, parts of Limpopo, KZN, Free State, the high levels of poverty. Our people are going through a lot. It opened one's mind. But also, I went to the Western Cape to campaign for the by-elections, and I found that even in the farms, illegal foreigners have been employed from Lesotho. Lesotho-speaking people are working in the farms. And when you ask them how did they get there, they tell you that they were recruited in Lesotho for jobs in South Africa. And they were told to pack their things, cross the river. And once they got into South Africa, a bus was waiting to transport them to the Western Cape. So, which shows that this is an organized syndicate of business that seeks to keep South Africans out of jobs. And the DA and the ANC have allowed that. The DA and the ANC have allowed these situations that I'm talking about that we saw all over the country. And so it was a lot of work, but a lot of painful, heartbreaking experience that our people are going through.
And in many ways, I suppose now you're reaping the rewards. We'll speak about what your objectives are, if perhaps I should say, you get into government, because we know, of course, there are still all kinds of conversations taking place. The ANC-NEC meeting is also taking place at the moment. But Gayton McKenzie has already come out to say that you've been approached by the ANC.
Yes.
There had been some kind of discussions on the way forward. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel as you and I speak this Thursday morning?
Look, the ANC at the end of the meeting indicated that they're going to consult with the NEC and then they'll get back to us. And you and I know that NEC meeting is ongoing as we speak. So we will wait for the NEC meeting to finish, then we'll see if the ANC gets back to us, because they might not get back to us, or they might get back to us and say, no, we are not working with you. They might get back to us and say, look, this is the framework that we presented to you. This is what we have decided, and this is where we see you playing a role. And then the discussion will unfold from there.
Were you given an opportunity in that engagement to present what you're asking for as part of the different options that are on the table?
No, but the meeting, remember it was a meeting of the ANC. So the ANC came to present their frameworks so that we can also go and consult our constituencies on their framework, so that they can also go and consult the NEC and come up with what they would deem the best for them, as they were talking to other political parties, because we're not the only ones. So it was sort of a meeting to say, here's the starting point, so that when we meet, they have the mandate from their NECs, but we also know what we want, and we can be able to make those relevant inputs.
Okay, from the options that were presented, and I asked these questions appreciating this is all still at a very early stage.
Yes. Was
there anything that was workable for the PA among the options they presented to you?
Yes, definitely. A grand coalition is what would be workable for the PA.
A grand coalition including which parties?
Let us talk reality. Let's not talk speculation. The reality is the ANC has 3 options. They can go with the DA, they can go with MK, they can go with EFF and PA. That's the reality. Now the reality is, MK says Cyril must go. Mbalula was very clear. don't bring the condition of Cyril must go, which means the possibility of that coalition falls off. The ANC-DA coalition has been dismissed by the Tripartite Alliance, by the partners of the ANC and others. But what does that option mean? Nelson Mandela said, the DA is a party that takes care of white interests, which means it's a white supremacist party. The DA was born out of the National Party. So if the ANC goes with the DA into coalition, it means the ANC is spitting on the grave of all those who have sacrificed their lives for this liberation, because the DA continues to protect white interests. We have seen in the Western Cape, we have seen in Tshwane, we have seen when they were in Joburg. So it will be spitting on the graves of the Nelson Mandelas, the O.R. Tambos, the Antoine French who have died for this particular freedom. Now, reality is...
It sounds like you're also not keen to have the DA and the ANC married together, but okay.
No. I'm talking reality.
Sure, okay.
And I'm talking our history, because I have that political consciousness. And so then you have the ANC-EFF PA. Where I'm sitting, that is the only reasonable, rational option that the ANC can take forward. But it depends on the ANC. They are going to make the decisions.
Even that option that you think is favorable has its own complexities, right? I mean, the big campaigning ticket that the PA went to voters with is diametrically opposed to a well-known stance from the EFF about how we should be treating our borders. Are you, for example, willing to compromise on that if, in fact, you were to find yourself sitting at the same table with the EFF to govern the country?
What you must understand is that a coalition deals with service delivery issues. But there are certain manifesto points that parties would say, this one is a non-negotiable. We are with the ANC and the EFF in a coalition in the city of Johannesburg. And we understand that the stance of PA is that of mass deportation of illegal immigrants. And the EFF has got its own other stances, but it doesn't mean the EFF would then stand in the way of our stance. But if, as an example, if the EFF would take the Minister of Police and I take Home Affairs, the PA takes Home Affairs, when I need to implement this particular manifesto point, and I need the police to assist me to go and raid the buildings, they have to make those resources available because they are not EFF resources. They are the resources of the state.
And they're not the PA resources either.
Yes, but you are managing. But I have a portfolio that must enforce the law in terms of illegal immigration. So I am implementing the mandate of that portfolio. But I need defense, which the ANC is running. I need police, which the EFF is running. So it becomes an issue of service delivery, not politics. It becomes an issue of service delivery. What is the mandate of what I'm doing? At the moment, in the city of Johannesburg, the EFF has got public safety, PA has got human settlements and transport. So when I want to go and deal with illegal immigrants under the bridges, I must talk to the MMC of Public Safety to deploy the resources of government to come and assist me to remove these people that are damaging our infrastructure. When the MMC of Human Settlements, Joshko, for instance, has got buildings that are hijacked by illegal immigrants, and the MMC wants to remove them, we must talk to the MMC of Public Safety to deploy the resources of government to go and assist this particular department to implement its mandate. So it's not about politics, it's about the mandate when it comes to government.
Okay, let me come in there after giving you a chance to explain. Yes. You and I both know it's not that simple.
It is simple.
All of these things are laced with ideological inclinations. And the point I am making is that on this crucial issue, the EFF and the PA are pulling quite literally in opposite directions. Even if you come to me and say it's a mandate and has to be implemented as part of what the state is asking for, the EFF can very much come through and present a very similar argument about why they shouldn't be allowing you to carry out that kind of mandate.
You can't.
My point, though, I mean, and you know, this is how voters are thinking. In fact, even the leader of the EFF was asked whether or not he thinks part of the reason why there was a slight decline is because people are against the stance of just lifting the borders. It is in the mind of your voters, it is in the mind of constituencies, and people are genuinely concerned about, at a practical level, how all of this will unfold when, frankly, decisions that have to be made are being made by, yes, ministers, but ministers who come with certain ideology because they belong to certain parties.
Ideology does not play a major role in a coalition. It's service delivery mandate. Before we even get to the EFF, the ANC is the cause of the proliferation of illegal immigrants in this country. They have opened the borders. We are still in coalition with them. They are the cause of this problem. But we are still in coalition with them. We are prepared to go in coalition with them to correct that same problem. The ANC has created unemployment in this country. The ANC is the cause of the collapse of infrastructure in this country. But we are still saying we don't have a majority. We need to go into coalition with this elephant and correct the elephant from inside government. Because inside government, political ideologies are put in the backseat, service delivery, and the mandate of each and every department comes into play. You are just doing oversight over a department that must perform its mandate to the citizens. So it's not a big problem. And I'm saying Johannesburg is a prime example. I think it was very good that this coalition happened in the city of Johannesburg. By the way, the MMC that I work with very closely are actually the MMCs from the EFF, Health and Social Development, and the MMC of Public Safety, and the MMC of Human Settlement. We work together very nicely.
Okay, so to be clear, the PA has no problem working with the EFF.
We have no problem working with any political party. We don't have a majority. Okay. We will work with anyone who has the best interest of this country at heart.
Fair enough. You know, you speak about the interest of the people, and I think many are hoping that's what's prioritized in all of this. That said, a lot of the discussions around what the PA is asking for is centered around this Home Affairs portfolio. How much of a non-negotiable is that for the PA? Is it really about this position, or are you open to contributing in any other ways in forming this new government?
The reason the ANC came to present their framework and said, go and consult, we are going to consult, is because a coalition is negotiations. But even when you go into negotiations, you must go with something. This is my wish. And once you sit in that meeting, you will then deliberate. Where compromises must happen, they will happen. In the city of Johannesburg, we wanted a different portfolio to what we have. But there were engagements. And we ended up saying, okay, they are compromising here, we will compromise here. So when the president said, this is a non-negotiable, this is what we want, it's true, that's what we want, because we can't trust the ANC to implement Abahambe. We can't trust the ANC to implement the mass deportation of illegal immigrants. So we are saying, for us to be able to achieve this in this coalition, we would want to run Home Affairs Department.
But the non-negotiable.
But the ANC can come and say, guys, let's sit around the table. Here are the facts. The EFF might come and say, if perhaps we go into coalition with those parties, and those engagements will happen. If it makes sense what they are saying, compromise here, take there, we will compromise here, we will understand, because at the end of the day, it is about servicing the country. It is about stabilizing our country. It is about having a coalition that will last for 5 years. It is about going in parliament, influencing policy and making sure that even if the ANC is a majority, but we use our power in that coalition to influence policy direction, to say how do we grow the economy? How do we promote constitutionalism? How do we implement what the Constitution is saying? And the Constitution says that a police officer or an immigration officer can stop anyone anywhere and ask for their verification.
Sure.
The Constitution says no one must come into this country illegally. And anyone who is found to be illegal in this country must be deported. So we then say to the ANC, you've been ignoring what the Constitution says. You've been ignoring the implementation of the law. We want it implemented.
Okay.
Whether it's the PA running that department or not, but we would prefer the PA because we know that the president is an action man, I am an action man, will definitely must deport them in their numbers.
All right, I've got my answer. Speaking about the president, he's been quoted as saying something very interesting. He mentioned that if the ANC and the DA were to get into some kind of coalition, that will possibly make Jacob Zuma one of the most influential and powerful people in the country. Do you know what he meant by that?
Indeed. Most of the ANC people will leave the ANC and join MK. A lot of the people in the ANC have lost their families. Tony Leon's father was a judge that sentenced Solomon Mahlangu to death. The family of Solomon Mahlangu do not want the ANC to sit in a coalition discussion of a party that is led by Tony Leon. A lot of people have been to prison, to Robben Island, because of the Nationalist Party, which then transformed itself into the Democratic Alliance. So the reality is a lot of ANC people would leave. In fact, there are those that have already said, if the ANC goes into coalition with the DA, we are going to leave. Right. And where would they go? They would go to MK, because Jacob Zuma keeps on saying, I'm an ANC member, I will die an ANC. So naturally they would say, but there's an ANC, there's the real ANC that refuses to get into bed with the enemy in inverted commas. Sure. So that's what I think the president of the Patriotic Alliance means.
That's interesting. I think it's safe to say there's no love lost between you and the DA, which is very interesting because the dynamics in the Western Cape, of course, are very different to what's taking place at a national level. The PA has made serious ground there. If memory serves, third largest party in the Western Cape. There are people who are suggesting that that's because of a result of how you've campaigned there and eaten into some of the support of the DA. In my mind, if you're going to make an impact in the Western Cape, you will have to work with the DA. There's just no way around that. How do you plan to navigate that? And I know that the DA has gotten a majority there, so they'll have their own government. But if there is going to be any prospect of making an impact, there has to be some kind of way to work with this party who you're so diametrically opposed to.
Our view is that the DA has stolen our votes in the Western Cape. We have reported with evidence of what has transpired there.
What's the nature of the evidence?
Did not get more than 50% in reality. We are contesting the Western Cape to remove the DA from power. So why should we work with the DA at this point in time? It has got a majority, it's a reality. It's a reality that we refuse to accept, but because the IEC has proclaimed, we say let's move on and prepare for local elections. You would remember that.
Before you move on, yes. I mean, you can't on the one hand say that they've rigged the elections and you have evidence, and then on the other hand say you accept what's taking place. What's the nature of the evidence that you have?
Number one, in Garden Route, the votes that belong to the Patriotic Alliance were given to another party. And our party agents discovered that, and they reported to the IEC. Fortunately, the IEC investigated promptly, and they found that to be true, and they returned those votes. Number two, the counting sheets in some of the VDs in the Western Cape in particular, what was signed by the party agents, the number of votes in those counting sheets did not match what appeared online. Number three, in some of the VDs where our people have voted, including the party agents, their votes disappeared. So it's leading up to these elections, the PA has been winning by-elections in the strongholds of the DA, including Kensington, including George, including Swartlands, and so on and so on. The DA has been rejected even in Sitapek, that it did not even contest. Even in Kensington, it realized that it was going to be embarrassed. So how does the DA, when we have seen that we've been winning wars from the DA and the ANC in the Western Cape, how come the DA become so powerful? And how come our votes disappear in the Western Cape? So we have provided that evidence to the IEC.
All right. Okay, I'm looking at the time and we are quickly running out. Hopefully, at the very heart of this, we'll get an opportunity to speak about what the NEC has decided and where the Patriotic Alliance stands insofar as that is concerned. But for now, I think it's important to give an undertaking that whatever happens, the voice of the PA will be around ensuring that A, your constituency, and B, the country is put forward. Is that an undertaking you can give in 30 seconds?
We always say that we put the country first. We put South Africans first. It's not a lip service. Most parties after elections, they change their tune. We have said, Abahambe, Abahambe. And we are saying we want to bring God back to schools. And we are saying that we want to take this country forward. So that is a commitment that we are making. And that is why we are sober in who are we going with and what are the dynamics, so that once we get into this coalition, it lasts for 5 years.
All right. Kenny Kunene, thanks for popping by. I appreciate your time on the SABC. And as the age-old saying goes, time will tell. We'll all be watching very closely. Kenny Kunene, of course, is the Deputy President of the Patriotic Alliance, with a lot of behind-the-scenes discussions taking place around this new government.